You know, do you think we're ready?
Take it away, Les.
Okay, excuse me, we'll go ahead and call the April 12th Plan of Conservation and Development Committee meeting to order and introduction to members. I think everybody already knows everybody here, so I don't think we need to do introductions.
Actually, we have to because our clerk is doing this remotely, so she doesn't know who everybody is. So we'll just go in the room.
Yeah, okay, so I'm Les King, member of the Planning Commission, Vice Chair. If you guys want to go around the table there.
Sure, I'll start here. Deanna Rhodes, I'm the Director of Planning and Neighborhood Services.
Chris LaRose, General Manager, Norwich Public Utilities.
Pat Daly, Police Chief, Norwood Police.
Rick Morrell, Inland Wetlands and Conservation.
Sydney Phelps, Director of Community Development.
And I'm Dan Danisco, the city planner and wetland agent.
Okay, and that's all that we have with us. Approval of the minutes for March 8, 2023. Entertain a motion to accept, or excuse me, to approve.
Dan, can you call those up? I sent them to you. Does anyone need to look at those by any chance?
I don't have those, Deanna.
I sent you an email.
I know, but I don't have my work email on this computer.
Oh, I didn't know that you did. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to table that to next meeting or do you feel comfortable in the minutes?
I
Let's
wasn't
have,
at the last meeting, so Jeff was here for my.
okay, were you here?
I was here, probably just easy table and doing.
Yeah, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of us that were there at the last meeting, so we can either table them or do it.
Well, if they were there then, so do you want to second his motion?
Yeah, that's fine.
So Les, you made a motion to approve?
Sure. Yes, I did.
Okay, Pat.
Okay, all those in favor, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. And,
The one abstention is going to be Chris LaRose.
okay. Okay. And old business, we have none.
Okay.
New business, update on project timeline and status of draft plan of conservation and development. And who wants to take this, Dan or Deanna?
Dan, did you get that email? Because I'm sorry, I thought you had access to your email.
Yep, I have the deadlines here.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go over this. So we kind of backtrack to figure out where we're going to be at because we really we want to hit that target to get it adopted in time. Statutorily, what happens is if you don't get adopted, you are not eligible for discretionary funding, or you have to submit what's called a waiver, and the state has to decide if they think it's worthy for you to get the waiver. And that waiver continues even if once you've submitted because you're late. So it's always like, you're really kind of forced your hand to meet your deadline. So our deadline, our plan of conservation development needs to be adopted by August 20th, 2023. That's the last deadline of it. So what we did was we worked backwards, and the meeting of the Commission on the City Plan is August 15th. That's their regular meeting. So it's like 5 days before. So it seems to work out good that way. So what we did was I looked at the deadlines that things need to be referred. So the first referrals need to go to COG and to the City Council. They get 65 days ahead of time to do a review. The City Council has a right to hold one or more public hearings on it. And what it does is, if you look at it, they can endorse or reject entire portions, and it requires the Commission on the City Plan to have a higher number of votes to be able to pass it if there's any section that the council doesn't want. The council, I'm going to recommend to them that they don't have public hearings because we are going to have a public hearing. So having the public, maybe they'll get confused that the council doesn't adopt it, so I think it's easier if they have their meeting and they discuss it, but not necessarily have the public hearing for the public. The public can come to the commission's public hearing. So June 9th is that referral that has to go to the COG. Then 35 days before, and at that point, I guess I'll back up. We're hoping to have as much done as we can at that point, but it may not be in the final format when it goes to the council. It may not have the pictures and things like that for the COG. It just is going to be the referral of the information, the general information in the plan. The goal is to have it done for there, but it may not be 100% done because it's 65 days ahead of time still. So we're kind of in a crunch. So then what happens is 35 days before was when we really need to have it specifically set in stone, because we refer it to the DEP commissioner. It has to go on the city's website and filed with the city clerk. So we want that version. That's going to be the final version unless, with some tweaks based on the public hearing, but we want it in really good shape. So July 11th, which is a Tuesday, is that time frame for that. CCP, again, have the public hearing on August 15th to meet that time frame, and we set an effective date around the 18th so that we meet that time frame. So what that means for us is there's a lot of work to do. And so, we've been working internally, and I'll let Dan talk a little bit what's been happening. But I think talking to our consultant the other day was that we think that we should have meetings every couple of weeks. It doesn't mean every single one of you needs to come, but we really want to keep that momentum going, because we knew that once it gets closer to the plan, we're gonna have more meetings, because we'll have things to show you, like this is the section, this much is done, this is done. So we, right now, our regular dated meetings are, the ones on this calendar here is the May 10th meeting, and then we have our June 14th, and they're usually the second Wednesdays of the month. So we're thinking of adding every 2 weeks on, so there'll be the later in the month and having those. But I was looking at the June 14th, which is our regular meeting, and June 28th meeting as being those community input meetings. We want to have a couple more community input meetings before we have our public hearing. Dan, are you comfortable with those dates? He wasn't in today. Dan?
I would say that the 24th, is that when you're looking for the CCP or the POCD committee to refer it to the COG and the council?
I'm sorry, say that again.
On this list, you have May 10th and May 24th. Is the 24th when you're looking that special meeting to refer it to the COG and the council?
No, we're bringing it to the COG and the council on June 9th.
Okay, so we're just going to do that as staff on a Friday. We don't need an official action by the community,
Nope.
in the committee. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So we just can refer it to the COG and the council.
Yep.
And, I thought once that version, whatever the COG has and the council, is what we could do our public meetings about, community meetings about. And then again, we'll have a July couple in July, and then our regular meeting for this committee is on the August 9th. But if we have like the week before, do like August 2nd, just to kind of wrap up, make sure that there's nothing else. And if we can cancel it, we can cancel these too. It's just having them set in stone. And if we feel we don't need to meet, we don't need to meet. But I think it would be nice to have a calendar. Does anyone have any issues with those dates?
No, I mean, June 9th will be here before you know it, as will August 23rd.
I know.
And it's, I'm with you, I don't want to miss a deadline, it's gonna affect any type of.
Yes, it's
discretionary
for the
funding,
city.
so
Yeah, I'm really,
I think you should book those meetings, because what's the ability for the council, and then the COG, will they have input, or they just accept it, or?
so the.
I always worry about the good idea, Perry, because you guys work really hard, and then somebody gets the document, and next thing you know, it comes back completely 180 around, then you've got to.
So what happens is the COG gets to make comments on the different sections. I think they're gonna be looking at more, not necessarily breaking down like specific things we say, but just making sure that it meets the regional plan. I think they're looking at it to make sure that we are consistent with the regional plan. The council, if, when they get it, they have 65 days to review it. And they can, like I said, they can have they have to send comments to us, but we're having our public hearing in August, so they can refer, their comments to us anytime as the council. But I don't think they should have a public hearing, because I just think the public's gonna be confused if the council's doing it and then,
Public hearings.
yeah, and then the commission on the city plan is doing it. So, no, I just think it's kind of aggressive, but it's because it's coming up so quick and I want to be able to bounce things off of you. So
Deanna, you're looking for 2 public hearings in June?
no, not public hearings, like I thought community meetings.
Okay,
So those would be the public hearing. I'm only looking at the one public hearing for the adoption on the 15th. I think we can do it in one public hearing.
yeah.
We
okay.
have an input from the public before then. The public hearing, even if it's long, they should be able, the commission is members of this committee. It's not like they're gonna hearing it for the first time. And
Right.
I think the endorsement of this committee who's been working on it, is enough anyways. I think if we're all in agreement what it is, I think the commission, unless I'm not speaking for you, but don't you think that the commission would go along with what they've been working on?
Oh, yeah, I believe they would. Absolutely.
So I don't think we need to have more than that, but so let's talk about those. So the discussing the community input meeting. So I think we should have those in June, because it gets really hot in the summer and people always got harder out, so if we can get them done in June. And I was talking to Sydney and I was thinking, I don't really want to do them in a government building, because I think it dissuades people from coming, it feels that kind of, you know, the agita people get of like, oh, I'm gonna come and, you know, give them my peace of mind, I want it to be more engaging. So Sydney and I were talking, and of course, you know, Foundry 66 came up. What do you think about that location for those two community meetings?
I would want
Yes.
one at the senior center.
One
Just
at
because-
one, Foundry
one
at
of the
one
senior-
senior center?
Just because the demographic of Norwich is getting
Yeah.
older, it's a government building, but that's what's threatening.
Yes, well, we
It's-
had that conversation, because I was reading a planning document earlier today, and it said, don't hold all your meetings at a senior center, because you won't get the younger people to come, because they're gonna come. But because you want the.
Yeah,
the
Foundry
combination-
will go
one
to,
and one.
they'll go to Foundry and
Okay.
then the older. crew
So
will
what do
go.
you think about that, doing one at Foundry and one at senior center?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds pretty good. One question I have, how is the public gonna get access to the documents before that?
So Wednesday, okay, so what we'll do is, we'll put it up on Vision Norwich 360, I think, as we're doing some things, we could do that. But it might be their first time that they really hear about it, because that's what I'm hoping the public, the community input, we can present what so far, what we're thinking about in short kind of blurbs of like, this is the economic side and this is the living, you know, the living side of, you know, what's it like to live in Norwich, improvements. What are you thinking, Dan?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, it might be like a start with doing some kind of PowerPoint, or not PowerPoint, like some kind of, you know, visual, you know, on a screen or something, and then say, what do you think about this? What else do you feel? You know, and getting that input from people to add into the plan on each section. So we're looking at doing the section. Dan, do you want to talk a little bit about how we want to format it?
Yeah, are we good with this timeline discussion?
So is everyone okay with these meeting dates and this timeline? Like I said, you don't have to always come, but we want to have these so we can have an opportunity to bounce ideas off of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your summer vacations.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay with the timelines. Can you send that document out to us?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
So Dan, let's talk a little bit about, I have a few different things under miscellaneous too, but we talked about community input meetings, senior center and Foundry. I guess
Are you
we,
gonna have some kind of hors d'oeuvre foodie thing? or
yeah, I
something?
think
Because
we
I
should.
think that especially helps in the senior center area to get
Yeah.
people to come.
Food and drinks, and
And
even if,
earlier at the senior center is better than later at the senior center.
so like a 5 at the
Probably
senior
at
center.
5. I would
Yeah.
think.
Okay, 5 at senior center and one at.
And maybe even after.
Do you think during the day?
No, but maybe for the Foundry, maybe it's getting people right after work, maybe it's 5 o'clock as well, like that. Instead of happy hour type thing, go to there.
Okay.
I'm not,
maybe-
I'm not just. I'm
And
just
we could get
spitballing.
pizzas or something, maybe we could do something like that. you know?
The 7 o'clock
Typically
meeting.
good practice.
Yeah, we did a
to
7, yeah, we did a
have
7 o'clock
food
at senior
there
center
to
for Len Copper. It was terrible.
Yeah.
We got 11 people there.
Especially now,
And we
longer
invited a bunch of-
days, people, it's
So why
tough
don't we
to.
want to plan them both at 5? Or is that too early for you guys if you were gonna go to the community? I mean, how do you feel about that?
No, but especially in the nicer weather, but you know, the way.
You guys want to do like a 5 on both of those?
Certainly works for us. I don't know if anybody on the commission
Yeah,
can't get there that time.
I like 5 o'clock.
Well, if we did 5 and we had food, then people don't feel like they missed out on, it. So 5 and food, you know, and we'll come up with some creative way to advertise it, you know. So
Yeah,
that
we could even repeat it at 6, do 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 for people that
Yeah,
come.
something like that, yeah. No, I like that, so people can come, you
Yeah, my
know,
thought is like a 6 o'clock meeting is, I stay at work, but I work here. So
Yeah.
people who are like, sometimes it's hard to get in, but also if I have to go back out to 6 as a younger kid, it's conflicts with dinner, it's
Yeah.
probably, I'm not gonna make it, so 5 would probably. be-
yeah, so
yeah.
let's do that, that sounds good, so we got those dates, I think that those are good time frame. Dan, do you think we can meet those timeframes for having some good information available for those?
Yeah, we're gonna have to. So.
Yeah. We're gonna crunch, there's so much going on right now, so like, this is like a huge task for us, but we were just talking about this, and there's the regular day-to-day and all this stuff we do. and What the
I'm
tools,
just gonna ignore everything else.
you do, we have to like lock our door and say, we are like in sequester mode or something, so. Les, can we move on to others, so we can talk about some other stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, is there any
Public-
public,
Public comment.
So
Yeah, go
Deanna,
ahead.
I have a draft vision statement that I typed up this afternoon.
That's what I was gonna move on to. So a couple of different things. So I want to talk about the vision statement and then I'll go on to each of the other things and I'll touch them on with you, okay? Go ahead.
Okay.
So one of the things that Dan and I had discussion with our consultant is it really helps to have that vision statement at the front of your plan, but also it kind of helps with even writing it more for Dan. I know we're doing all these mapping and stuff, but we're getting into the writing and to have that vision. So, we've been thinking about different from different cogs and so some of the, different plans. But Dan, have you come up with one specifically for Norwich?
I do, I informally polled people that were around today and we have a listing here from the consultant, one from Vernon, Southbury, Bethel, New Britain, Naugatuck, Portland, the River Cog, Regional POCD. And the general consensus, which is kind of what I was hoping, was New Britain, which we're kind of trying to mirror their plan. And so I typed up this afternoon a draft one for Norwich. Can you see it on the screen? Do you need me to make it bigger?
And why don't you talk about
Right.
the titles of why they're that way too?
So instead of doing the same old, chapter 1, this is this, chapter 1B, this is this, we're gonna go with theme areas. So it's connect, grow, live, play, and sustain. And I just typed up some brief language that'll kind of guide each of those sections if people want to take a minute to read through it.
Okay, so let's just read each one, like, we'll do connect.
There would be these 5 chapters instead of infrastructure or municipal facilities or whatever. They'll kind of be woven into different theme areas.
When you're ready, we'll move the page up.
Move it up. Move it up.
Yeah,
Do you want to mention in the grow, where you're talking about the working with local educational institutes?
write a note about that, we'll get back to it, so.
And I'm not
No.
very knowledgeable of that, but I know
No.
Kevin and the mayor are both on the board
Yeah.
and that's their mission.
Okay, so let's read, live, and, did we finish the whole thing of grow? I can't remember. Yes, we got grow in now. Okay, go ahead.
So I like these, but they read like chapter starts. And I
Okay.
wonder if a vision that starts the whole plan needs to be 3 sentences long and digestible in that way.
Okay. I get.
I
get
like
what you're
these,
saying.
I'm not against
no,
any
I
of
get
these, but just as far as if we're talking about writing a plan, right, when I write those vision statements, those mission statements, they're typically like 2 to 3 sentences long to help you stay really focused. That's the hard thing, is compressing so much information down into that. But that's just a suggestion.
No,
Yeah, and I like that for an overall like guiding principle.
Yeah.
but every single one of the ones that I didn't show you is even longer than this. It's just
Yeah.
Dan,
kind of a
start off
thing.
with the paragraph that gets what Sydney's trying to do, brings it all in, and
At
then
the
you,
beginning.
like, an opening,
Yeah.
brings
Like-
it all together.
That ties
then
those different
all the
characters.
different-
It ties the five things.
The five
right.
things
More of a
together.
vision
Right,
versus a mission.
more of a vision versus
And
this
then
is how
drop
we
into
do it
the
in Norwich.
specifics.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
go-
so I would have something that said, the city of Norwich is looking to be a place that connects, grows, lives and plays and sustains, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And that would be the soundbite thing. That wouldn't be this.
I like that, and I think that that's taking these different categories and writing something shorter at the beginning. That are, that we're encouraging all these, quality of life being based on all these things, or something.
Yeah,
the quality of life is influenced by these
Yes.
five major factors. And like, why did we pick why are these our vision?
right.
So back to grow.
Yes, go back to he was saying, you missed what Chris said.
There's two things I think we need in there. I think we need to say that the mayor is in charge of economic development for the city.
Okay,
And we also have to talk about NCDC and the great work that they do.
yep,
So I think those two things should be incorporated and grow.
I
Because
think,
that's their both missions and there's city agencies that do that.
I think that that's definitely,
Are we still a member of the last Green Valley?
yes.
We are, I believe we're the southernmost member of it.
So that would be under, That's-
Sustain.
yes, go down. Or is that under play?
Could be under play too,
Could be
because,
under play.
I've been hit on the river, I think that's.
Because the recreation opportunities are there
Yeah,
under
that-
play, so
As
let's
a
do
member
play.
of the last Green Valley, we offer, that.
And Chautauqua River Corridor. Or something, we'll mention that in the plan, but yeah,
Sustain, I think we gotta throw something in there, how we're gonna be doing the sewer project, which is gonna enhance and clean up the river and
okay,
and all the way to Long Island Sound.
okay, that sounds good. And the water quality, what we're doing is
Yeah,
water quality.
I mean, that's
improvement.
a racial justice issue too.
It
So
is.
like I don't know if we want to do that here, but that.
No, we can, in there, we
People
can
always
talk about
call
environmental
from that type of
justice in
stuff,
here.
or that my generation loves to point out those, like, what are you doing for racial equity? And that is a huge project to promote one, low income equity, but also racial equity.
So Dan.
The grant we got today for $10 million, we
Yeah.
got that in large part because of our racial equity,
Yep,
because, it's improving air quality and valued community.
Dan, on the other plans, were they things that they had done or things that they're gonna do? This is a little hodgepodge of both.
It's a forward-thinking statement that's rooted in the present day, I guess.
Cause we go back and forth from things we're doing, things we did, or things we wanna do. I don't know if it's all, usually
It's-
it's like all future stuff, like we're gonna
Yeah.
do work that.
Excuse me, yeah, I agree, and it is looking forward, and we do need to get stuff in here, keywords and tricky phrases that money is gonna be tied to legislatively, like transit-oriented development,
Mhm.
desegregate Connecticut, we may want to sort of put some keywords and tricky phrases from that legislation in this.
Mhm.
That way we tie it into the money before the legislation actually gets out on the streets.
yeah, yeah. So what we can do is we can come up if, we'll have our next meeting, I don't have the date in front of me now, soon, and we can get that mission statement out to you before then and see what you think about it. Because again, it's not a mission statement, it's a vision statement.
Okay.
So, it's a vision statement and it's gonna lead us into the different chapters. And we don't necessarily have to stick exactly with his name, but we really kind of liked it connecting with the transportation network, those kind of things, the utilities, it's connecting, growing. You can do that in many different ways with, like I said, the, housing. Actually, that's not housing. That is the business, mostly economic growth. I think it's there. So what about the, open space, Dan? Under which portion of the sustainability?
It's kind of in a couple different things.
All right,
How about swapping out Thrive for Sustain?
Thrive,
Thrive. No, I'm just kicking it out there. Just thinking sustain's kind of not an action word. It's like we're saying, where I'm trying to find a more actiony word of like,
Well, sustain is green and thrive, it seems more like grow and in culture and.
Thriving, yeah, but it's sustain, there's
So
a
I-
big
you gotta
word,
capture the green.
is sustain, it is, it's the whole green, everything is sustainability, so that's what the word sustain, it's in a
Oh.
different way of being sustainable, like you're thinking, like sustain means staying the same, like let's
Yeah.
sustain it, you know? So, I don't know, we need to look at that. Dan, do you want to go back to some of the other examples or not? Do you not want to look at some of the other ones?
No, that's fine. I think mine's better, but we can look at the other one.
I agree, obviously.
well, yours is the only one I would look at personally is.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, so there's New Britain, we really do think New Britain's plan is really good. So, like, again, Vernon.
In a lot of ways, where New Britain is right now is where we want to be in 5 to 10 years.
Yes,
But Vernon's is more typical of kind
Oh.
of 10 years ago, I would say.
and like in Southbury, there's only one Southbury in the United States, and then a unique claim to its name, you know, that kind of thing is there. Again, it's
Wow.
cute, but it's kind of the old, it's the old school of how they did the vision statements at the beginning of plans. Keep going down, I'm curious about what the COG is doing.
There's
Beth-
Bethel,
Yeah,
village values.
it's based on village what is village values? The town of Bethel is thriving to be based on
Journey
village
butter.
values.
That
That-
means no low income housing.
Village, it's as hard as a flourishing village center in Fairfield County.
Pat, does renew get more to what you were? Like
No,
renewable versus sustain?
I'm trying to think of another buzzword for green
Right.
initiatives.
Right,
Just, again, sustain just and it's probably just me, but mentally it's
Staying the same.
staying the same. I can't get past sustainability. Maybe it's just we put the sustainability on it. Or is it,
Is it,
green, I'm trying to think of a
Green,
word.
we say better word.
renew. Like renewable resources and whatnot. But that's. just
let's
an
think
example.
about the word there. So like the Bethel is a typical, like I said, go past Bethel because that's the village values. That's not us. We don't.
Here's New Britain's, which is kind of where we came from.
Yeah,
When I look up synonyms for sustainable, the only one that is green is actually green in here. Everything else is more what you're saying about, which is kind of.
Unending, worth,
Yeah.
supportable, yeah.
what's after New Britain, Dan? Go down, next one. So Naugatuck is what? Just a,
Naugatuck got the lowest rankings in my informal poll.
okay. Pass then.
Now, the buzzword in my field is decarbonization for
Yeah.
sustainable.
Oh, we throw a carbon footprint in there. That's
Yes.
that one, reducing the footprint or
Mhm.
responsibility. We're trying to.
I like responsible. We could weave sustainability into being
Responsible. we're trying to
environmentally responsible.
Footprint, we're trying to make the city a more environmentally friendly, responsive place to live and work. Yeah, it's not, I mean, New Britain did it, that's where we want to go, they have sustain, I was just thinking, man,
What else do you got, Dan, after this? Okay, it's POCD, this is, I didn't like this. Incentives will be created and adaptive reuse strategies situated to preserve Portland's character and to make it more energy efficient. Probably more preservation. And that's nothing, that's just, I mean, I work there, so. It's like what it was. Portland wants to stay Portland. It should just say, don't let
We
us
have
change. We sustain exactly the same way forever. The spirit of Portland citizen. What else you got, Dan? What's next? I want to with the COG has. They have sustainable, connected. These are their chapters. 4 keys. It said 4 keys on there. So,
Innovative and community.
innovate. So it was innovative, connected, and sustainable. It has 4 woven through themes. Yeah.
I mean, the region has a long history of innovation and will continue to be central to its identity well into the future. It is the most vague statement. And that's coming from a planner where sometimes you have to be vague, but okay,
And I can tell you, it's not true. I used to be in that region.
kind of quiet. I don't really know. They have witch hazel, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty landscape.
In East Hampton. Well, I love saying the region will be a well-connected place with strong internal, external connections. That's the same thing as well connected with connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is planner garb.
Like a filler, yeah.
Yeah, all right, what else you got? Yeah, it is planner filler,
That's the last one.
and that's it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like what you have, Dan. I think that it could be, like I said, let's think about those things that we've heard here today and maybe tweak it.
Yep.
Yeah, if I can jump in here again really quick. Our, sitting on the board of directors for Southeastern Connecticut Housing Alliance, our growth is going to be restricted by the lack of housing with the amount of people that are going to be hired down around EB and even Pfizer's. That's what's going to restrict our growth. So I think money's going to be tied to that. Housing is so expensive to build now, it's not going to go down in cost. But I think we ought to go back to keywords and tricky phrases and try and tie it to money that's going to be coming out to help with the housing. Not necessarily,
I think Dan had housing in there.
yeah, but I think we may want to go a little bit further on that. We need affordable housing, but we also need market rate housing.
Mhm.
Because market rate housing is being rented out and before it's even built, so that's showing there's a huge need that's not being met. And I know some folks like at EB cannot really consummate a job until they guarantee that they have housing to move into if they're coming into the area.
So let's see what Dan just highlighted, what it says.
Right, affordable housing choices across income levels and household types. Yeah. What is affordable housing? But we also ought to put in there market rate housing.
Yeah, and I think we can have that in that chapter. We'll kind of unfold a little bit on what these say.
Yeah, well, and even in the beginning here, of market rate housing, that's what a lot of developers look at is, oh, they want us to build cheap housing again for lower income folks. But if we put market rate housing, the developers see that as their language for market
How about
rate housing.
we say attainable housing?
Choices.
Or workforce housing or something like that. But we need workforce and market rate housing just as much as we need affordable housing right now.
But Les, don't you think that the words all income levels and household types covers that?
I don't know. I like the keywords and tricky phrases that are tied to money when it comes out of legislation for housing.
There's no money for builders right now, just so you know.
There will be, but there will be. That's the thing. In the next few years, there's going to be quite a bit of money that's got to come out for housing.
I think it's coming out for affordable. It's not, I don't think it's gonna come out for market rate. And that's just from our, from the meetings that we go to. They're really pushing on the affordable housing, and the transportation oriented development, like we just had last week, the transportation oriented communities. And really building around those nodes and making sure that they're affordable. So I'm just saying, I know in Norwich, we don't have a shortage of developers coming in that want to do market rate, just so you know. Westland doesn't want to touch affordable. I understand that this second phase of Panema may not have any affordable units in the second phase of Panema, that the South Hill may all be market rate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess
yeah, as long, yeah, you know better than I do being a professional planner, but as long as we get the right phraseology in there that ties it to the right language for the right people.
Yeah, no, I agree. So Dan, I think that want us to tweak this and give it to you for the next meeting? How's that sound?
I'm going to send it out to you next week. I don't want to wait for the next meeting.
No, but I said, we'll send it up next week, and if you have comments, then we can try to maybe finalize it for the following meeting. How's that?
Yeah.
And then, another couple things I want to talk about is we talked about how we want to do these chapters and kind of stick them in there instead of, like you said, this one's on economic development, this is this, and you have 20 chapters of just minutia. We kind of like these themes. Do you like the theme idea and having live is housing and, you know, play is the recreation and these kind of things and connect is streets and utilities and things? What do you think about those themes? That's becoming sort of the norm in doing plans of conservation development in Connecticut. So we like it, but again, you know, it's the city's plan, so.
Connect is also how citizens connect.
Mhm.
That should be in there as well.
Yeah, connecting is transportation and everything like that too, right? Correct.
But how we do it with the committees on in the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
I think it could be possible if there are clear subsections under each theme.
Okay.
I think my biggest complaint with the current plan is it seems disjointed. It
Mhm.
seems like, oh, we have these four groups and then, well, this is over here and this is over here. When I was reading that and studying that, I would have liked it to be more
Mhm.
succinct so that I knew, oh, on page 18 through 20, we're talking about economic development.
Yeah, because
Which-
it was very like grow smart economically,
Yeah.
grow smart this is how they were, you know, the chapters were set up that way.
Which you should never have economic development as your goal, because everyone's goal is economic development. That's the point of everything that we're, like, everything you try to do is on a cost basis. That's everyone's goal. So to set something, oh, we're doing it as a cost basis, that almost is like a given, so to say. So I'm glad it's not one of our themes, so to say, just
No,
economic
no,
saving.
I think so. So Dan, I'm gonna task you with doing that and maybe, I know, and maybe looking at these different chapters and then coming up with a few, and maybe some sub chapters underneath them or subtitles within them. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. Do you have the water map that NPU sent me? I sent an email doing that, and you don't have it all. Oh, there it is. So thank you, Christopher LaRose and Dave Poor and the water department. They have updated the water service map. Does this show any future growth areas of water? Do you want it to show? It doesn't really show that. Do you want it to show that?
So there are no future growth areas of water.
Okay, and for what reason? Explain.
Because it's not economically feasible to do that. So when we look at water, it's either paid for by the city for fire protection, or it's the ratepayers can't afford to expand to water. So when we just did Countryside, it was because they had a failing well system and we were able to get 90% grants. That was the only reason we were able to expand there.
Okay.
The big pushes for water are the Groton interconnect and continuing the interconnect potentially into Wyndham.
Okay, so do we
wow.
want to talk? So that should be in the plan, Dan, right? I think we should be referencing that as our growth. What do you think, Chris? It's
Mhm.
your,
Well,
you know,
Yeah, just in case you could get money through it.
Department of Health, it's not gonna help Norwich. It's not,
Okay.
you know, so I wouldn't say that one, but the Groton interconnect is a fantastic interconnect because that brings in water on both sides of the horseshoe. That's at the Preston Riverwalk site and down at Mohegan Sun, both sides of the river. And if there's anything that happens in our system where we lose our supply, we can bring in water from two sections. And likewise, if Groton has a problem, we can pump water both ways back that direction. And we're the two big water providers for the area.
okay. So looking at this map, Dan, can you zoom into like where the area of Business Park North is? Just if you don't mind, can you zoom in? So it shows water going down, what road is that? Is that,
So we have water on Route 97 and we have water on Canterbury Turnpike.
okay,
And we will, if this all goes through to the full extent of the park,
mhm,
we'll make a loop so it connects the two of them
okay,
inside the park.
okay. So it would end up eventually showing in this area if there was a road put in and all those kind of things.
Yeah,
It would show.
But if you look. you
It's
know,
already there. It's
north
not
of-
really
north
an
of those two
extension.
dots at 7-Eleven, right?
Yep.
Look at 7-Eleven, it's north of there already.
Yep.
So we have the whole parcel surrounded.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of connecting it to make it
Okay,
flow better for
so you
better
don't really look
quality.
at that as an extension because it's just already there.
Yeah.
Okay,
And likewise, sewer runs right along Route 97.
okay,
It's not really an extension. Electric and gas are both gonna have major improvements to get. We have both there, but they're not of the right capacity.
So we asked about the water map. Was there a reason that we didn't ask about a sewer map or anything like that? Do you?
I don't know why you didn't ask.
No, I'm just, this came from our consultant, when he said this is what, we need. Dan, is there any reason I don't have do I have the existing plan on me? I do. We even have one before, maybe, I don't know why, maybe it's about, water extension from a health perspective.
SLR does a water supply plan.
Okay.
Maybe that's why they're interested in more water. I don't know.
Oh,
And we have the maps from the last plan about, areas to grow, areas to
yes,
conserve. And it's kind of based on sewer and water anyway.
yeah, so I
I
guess
feel
that,
like from a density point, MPU is not going to extend sewer unless they hit the numbers that it makes sense to extend sewer.
so like, this is the
They're-
residential plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm,
Makes perfect sense for sewer like at Teddy Lane. Until you get a vast neighborhood call for it, it's costing people $10,000. Nobody wants to spend $10,000 unless
Right.
Do you guys have plans to put, gas and water up in Ostrobando? It might already be there, I don't know if it's.
So we have a section where we don't have it.
Okay,
We are running water up to the almost to the dump.
okay,
And that's gonna serve 3 customers. But those are contaminated wells that they use ARP money for. And so,
got it, okay.
so between Pat and John, they said, hey, let's do this. It's about an $800,000 project, but once again, 3 customers, that's not broke. That's
Yeah. Checking the box.
fixing a
Yeah.
big problem.
Yeah,
that's more of the dump contaminated your well, so.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I feel like Norwich is fully sewered and watered where density makes sense, right, Chris? Not gonna,
And we've also hit all the low hanging fruit on natural gas expansion. So we'll upgrade to get here and make the pressure higher so we can put more gas out to Business Park North. But all of the places we're going to expand in Norwich are done. The only place we'll expand outside of Norwich is in Preston Riverwalk. And that'll be a electric upgrade and a natural gas upgrade, but we feed that through Preston, so it doesn't really help Norwich. Other than
Right.
percent to the city fund.
So just so you know, there's not really in our existing plan, any kind of visionary statement. It just kind of gives you that, and as the planning basics, like we talked about, grow strategically, promote livability, leverage assets, and implement plans. Similar kind of categories and then subcategories underneath them, but even those are a little wishy-washy. So again, sometimes it is hard to find something specifically in the plan. So we want to clarify that and make that better. So we appreciate the water plan. I think this is great, and we'll include it.
But if you want more sewer and gas, I can provide that. Electric is everywhere, so it
Okay.
doesn't make much sense to
So
show every street.
what are
in the
your
city.
thoughts on that electric and gas stand? Do you think, or not
Gas
really?
and sewer.
Oh, gas and sewer, excuse me, gas and sewer. Do you think that's necessary? Because again,
I don't think we need a map really. I think we can have in the text that the utility company has expanded where it makes sense density wise.
I think so too. I don't think we have a map of that.
Yeah, it's built out with the possibility of expansion if development calls for it.
Exactly. All right, that sounds good. Thank you for that. So I want to talk a little bit about the housing numbers. I don't have it here so much, and we can just talk about it. So in the workbooks that we originally were working through from SLR, is they had one of the pages was about, it was about housing and housing numbers, and we were looking at that. And I don't remember if you remember this, but I said to him, this doesn't seem right. The housing numbers are off for the city. And it was taken from the state of Connecticut, because we report in, was it taken from the state of Connecticut or was taken from the federal reporting, Dan? Do you remember, for census?
Or housing permits,
What were those numbers from? Do you remember? Is that where the housing starts? I don't remember.
nothing locally. It might have been from the census.
Okay, so they were way low, and I was like, this isn't right, because, for example, I know just in the
No,
last years
I'll
that,
just interrupt you. The census was high, and where the numbers from the state were low.
Those are the state, thank you. So the state's numbers were really low, and we have reporting forms that have to go in. I think they're quarterly that say, you know, how many permits did you do, and you know, how many houses did you issue to the building officials to sign off on? Well, I'm not blaming anyone in the past, but I think what staff did at the time was, if there was a building permit, like for housing, for multifamily, and it was one building permit, it was listed, it was one building permit for it. So I'm like, this is completely wrong, because I know in 2015, they started at Panema, they did 116 units, the first phase of Panema. And for 2016, it said we had one multifamily house. And I'm like, oh, so like, once I started looking at that, I started going through those numbers and corrected all of them from 2015 forward. Because before 2015, before we had Waxis, is when we kind of transitioned over that, everything was done by hand on a spreadsheet. And it's not consistent of how they were listed. So someone might say a single family resident, someone might say house. So it's too hard to go and try to figure out what they were. So I'm not going back past 2015, which seems right around anyways, because our plan is from 2013, so it's not too far off. I don't think I need to go that far back, but at least knowing our boom with like the apartments and things really started the hillside at Riverview and then Panema. So our numbers have been increased, which looks really good. And so they updated those pages, you know, that will be in our plan regarding housing. So it's going to reflect the real numbers in Norwich and not necessarily the numbers that the state has. So when that goes down to you, Les, so when you see reports that have Norwich housing, if those numbers came from the state, they're not correct. And that was always like, why does it look like Norwich isn't getting this housing? And I knew we are. So we're really doing well with the creation of multifamily housing and even single family housing with subdivisions since I started. So I think we're doing well with that. And I think we'll continue to be a desirable location to have housing.
Yeah, that sounds good. And along with the housing, could I back up just a little bit to the electrical, the electric grid?
Yes.
For plan of conservation and development, as far as we have folks coming into town that are renting, that are asking about the ability to charge their cars and all that kind of stuff. You know, and we don't have anything really in place in town right now. I know the article just came out and said 67% of all cars sold by 2032 are going to be electric. And so we're looking at less than 10 years. Over half of our transportation in town will most likely need charged. And
So all the housing developments, we are promoting the developers to incorporate charging. And we have rebates for level 1 and level 2 chargers for individual homes and for multifamilies.
yeah, okay. And what about existing neighborhoods, high density where there's no off-street parking? How is it, do we have something that sort of gives them an idea of what that's going to look like in the future for the folks that live here already?
You mean like where we would install them on people that have?
Yeah, some kind of design standard. You have a high density neighborhood over on, I don't know, Boswell Avenue, Prospect Street, whatever. It
Yeah.
really doesn't have much off-street housing. Are we looking at anything like that? Design standards or, you know, what would that neighborhood look like with a bunch of charging stations sitting on the sidewalk? I don't know.
I think that's gonna be something that, like, Chris, would you be, you know, if someone said, I want to install, you know, chargers, the city would be in charge of installing those with MCU, I'm assuming. And we probably wouldn't put them along the roadway in multiple locations. Can you imagine? Is that's consistent of where you would put chargers, like, in parking, like on-street parking kind of things?
I mean, our sweet spot is to support people installing chargers with the infrastructure. If we're not going to be, if you look at the actual market for, you know, paying to charge, it's not there. And the payback could be 40, 50 years for a level 3 charger, like you see, like the Tesla chargers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
quite-
agree. It's
And,
a lot of moneymaker.
Grants right now to do that, but we're not looking to be in that business because it's really a tough business to be in. 85% of all electric vehicle charging is done in the home.
Okay.
So that's kind of where the industry is. And, you know, we
So I
have,
guess so if you went back to that, I mean, cut you off, Chris, but I mean, so if you're looking at, you're an affordable, you're renting and you're in a multifamily house, the likelihood that you're gonna need a charger is it's not gonna be installed there unless the owner of that multifamily decides to put one in there, correct?
And it's a great attraction for young people to move into an apartment complex. And
Oh, yeah, yeah, it is.
You're gonna see, and you're gonna see more, of the grocery stores.
Yeah.
You're seeing it in a lot of the, places where you're gonna see more than an hour.
So
Makes
Panema
sense.
has how many put in there, do you know?
4.
The Panema has 4 and, and like I said, developments that are coming, Westledge did some too,
Yes, they
right?
did. Yep.
So I think that's how we have to skin that cat is,
Deanna, I would just add that the state is now requiring multifamily developments to have them.
Yeah, it's anything over 30 units, right?
Yeah, so anything larger, they're gonna be required to put them in.
yeah.
Yeah, and then we also need to, talk about, land use, how it's gonna be zoned for land use and also taxing and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big, quite a big deal it's quite a big change that's gonna happen over the next few years.
How would you even pay for a community charger? Like that would just come out of your pocket, wouldn't it?
We
Like
it
when
would
it's
be a ton of
home,
money
they pay
maker,
for
that's what
the
he's saying.
electric
You'd
that
be
they're
not-
using.
So there's some really creative people out there, and you can use a phone app. And
Interesting.
it's up
Like
in the
the
pole, it's
parking
up in the
meter.
pole space, and you tap into the
And it tells you how much
to
you're
the thing,
charging.
and it tells you how much it's gonna be, and then it comes down, you connect in.
Wow.
And once again, a lot of dollars for that.
Yeah, but you're
infrastructure.
sitting there on the side of the road, like charging it would
Yeah.
make sense to maybe put it at like a park,
Mhm.
but not, I mean, I agree with you, in people's houses is where people are gonna
Yeah.
charge up and you.
But again, a place like the terraces up here.
Sure, sure.
Now,
Yeah,
the owners of the terraces could look at putting in some kind of a
Right,
system like that.
yeah.
Because you could do on-street charging, and that's the place where you might get some of that, but you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna get it in
Yeah,
the lower stock. of-
I think that at some
Of the
point the
housing.
state will probably put it in, I'm imagining, Chris, you can answer that, in places that are the park and rides, you know what I mean? So if you're parking and riding and you're doing sharing, why wouldn't you be able to park your car there, charge it, and then go share a car or someone and, and then be able to leave? And that's something that the state should be working on in their.
I believe the state already is working on that on the 395 corridor. There's signs that say alternative
yeah, that's good.
vehicle charging.
That's
corridor.
good.
50 miles.
Yeah.
on-
Yeah, I did. There was a big write-up the other day too. It was either Wall Street Journal or New York Times that Walmart's plan for charging stations, they'll be the biggest charging station company or business in the country before long. Because, 90% of the American population lives within 10 miles of a Walmart. And that's one of their big plans is to start putting in stuff. I don't know if the grids are able to
them-
handle that kind of a load, but something like that is, how do we make it easy for them to come in and do that by our zoning and all the other stuff?
We're very permissive right now with zoning to do it.
Okay.
It's a given. It's not even, we count that as a parking space, so it's not, so no, I don't think we need to do a lot of changes on that in our plan. I think we just have to mention it, mention about, the EV charging, but I do want to move on so because of time.
Yep.
Do you have your land use map that you can bring up that you've been working on?
No, I don't have that available.
Okay. So want to talk a little bit about it and what the issue
So,
with
I've
that?
been working on the city's first ever land use map, so I'm going through parcel by parcel and coding things as what they are on the ground right now, not necessarily what they are zoned, but what they actually are, or what they could be. We have a lot of undeveloped parcels that are adjacent to single family homes. So it's just gonna get marked as single family if it's a house lot, and we offered it to the property owner as it's kind of their extra side yard. And I'm taking from the assessor, which is probably 300 different codes, and trying to distill them down to 15 or so categories for a
It's
citywide.
challenging. It's been, that's why when you talk about writing the plan, the writing part of it is gonna move along quickly. It's getting this mapping work done. And had we outsourced this would have cost us a fortune. So Dan doing it internally is great, but it's so time consuming. And like I said,
But
soon,
then we'll have it and we can we can change it to be what we want to see in the future.
yeah.
And a lot of the other maps will be kind of based off of it.
So this will be the first time that we actually know what's on the, where, like I said, what the land uses are actually out there. And then when we have these discussions like we've had last, And people have said, I think it actually was you, Rich, that said it, was like along Lafayette, and we can have like senior housing there, housing that mixed use that could be near the hospitals and stuff. I mean, being able to have a land use map of what is existing there and how that can change and what we can look at it for zoning, for future zoning of where we can look at it will be amazing, So I commend Dan for his hard work, and I've been riding him like pushing to get it done, but it's hard, but that's one of the reasons this has been taking quite a bit of time, is that one task alone is just arduous. But Dan, we'll show it to you. We can send it out to you of where, it's a draft, so maybe you want to wait on that, but Dan's been working hard on that. We think it's gonna be
Yeah, and I've been working with the consultant on getting map templates, so we can get it into something that'll look like what it'll look like in the plan when it's published. So we're
Are we-
working on everything too.
Are we envisioning reusing some of the maps that were from our POCD regarding the nodes, because they really haven't changed? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we'll reuse them and update them a little bit, but I like the idea of the nodes in the corridor, so if nobody's opposed to that, I would stick with it.
Do you like the nodes and that,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Does there anyone else have any comments tonight? Right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, Dan's gonna tweak up the vision statement for you guys and, try to clear that up. I'm going to, send you the schedule, and I guess those would be special meetings, because we already have our calendar. And then I'm gonna book those 2 locations, hopefully at 5 o'clock, and we'll figure that out too and get moving, because it's a blink of the eye before it's June here. It's crazy. It's gonna be here so quickly. All right.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Closing comments by anybody?
Just a motion.
Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye, okay. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you. Appreciate it.
Great work.
Thank you, everyone.